Good evening, everybody. Is there volume there? Can you hear me? Okay. Welcome to a special meeting of Town Council, November 25th. And this meeting is around the bylaw for mandatory mask wearing within the town of Vegreville. So we are going to have a very open and frank conversation about why we're here. I can tell everybody in council here is a little shocked from where we went from Monday till now. Part of it is the measures that the province brought in yesterday were nowhere near what I thought that we were going to see. I've had all kinds of different people in our community reach out to me since then. And I've want council to just have their say for the public to hear so everybody understands each councillor's point of view. So to get the ball rolling here, I will need a motion for first reading on the bylaw, the amended bylaw that is different than what the changes that we asked for the other night. Is that correct, Cliff?
Yes.
So before we ask for that motion for the first reading, you want to hear what the amendments are, the differences. Okay, so we'll go start there.
Okay, we have changed the trigger for this bylaw. In the first draft bylaw that was presented, we had it that once AHS determined that our region, because we're not able to receive the town statistics, once our region received the designation of enhanced status, that this bylaw would come into effect. So we've removed that and we put an effective date in of November 30th, which is Monday, and the bylaw will be in effect for 90 days till midnight on February 28th, or 11:59 p.m. on February 28th, so 3 months. So the other change to the draft bylaw was section 4.1, and it's this bylaw will not apply to the following persons under the age of 5. We had originally proposed 10, and we've now changed this to 5. And the last item is we've included the face covering required poster as will be in the bylaw.
Go ahead, Councillor Barry.
On my copy, it says that it expires at midnight, February 25th. I think you may have read it as 28th. Is my copy different than your copy?
We had made it full. Initially, we were thinking of the bylaw being effective tonight, and I went 3 months. But in conversation with the mayor, he wanted the bylaw to come in effect on November 30. So then we moved the date to February 28. So in the agenda package, it's February 28, 2021. The first draft bylaw went out, there was one change.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other questions regarding the amendments that were made to the original bylaw before we move ahead? Councillor Project, do you get to hear the changes? Okay. So now I would accept a motion for first reading on the mandatory mask bylaw for the town of Vegreville. Councillor Lemko makes that motion. Thank you very much. So I'll start with why I've asked everybody to come tonight. And a lot of it has to do with the direction that the province took. I thought it was going to be a lot different than what it was. And a lot of my thoughts are personal. I have had a hard time accepting the fact that I'm okay with doing nothing. And I understand why I was doing it now, because it was easy. It was easy for me to say that the Premier was the one that was making the decisions for the town of Vegreville. But in actual fact, he wasn't making the decisions for the town of Vegreville. We make the decisions for the town of Vegreville. I respect everybody's opinion. I just know myself, the last few days, I've had a really hard time accepting the fact that I was willing to do nothing. I am not here to tell you that a mask bylaw is going to cure COVID. What I'm here to tell you is that it is a tool in the box to help prevent the spread in our community. This morning, I had a conversation with what I consider our chief medical officer, Dr. Stridham. He told me that he wished that the council would move ahead with the bylaw. He feels, and the other doctors in our community feel, that they've seen a lot less cases of common cold and zero influenza in Vegreville, and they attribute it to the fact that a lot of people are wearing masks. He feels that it would be a show of support for frontline workers that are wearing masks and then working hard every day, that if we could encourage citizens to do the same. Another thing that happened is somebody that I care a lot about is in her late 90s and has been very good in the facility she lives in. And yesterday they became aware of COVID in their facility. And I started to think about what would happen, how I would feel if something got in our community. This mask bylaw is not going to be 100% cure for COVID getting into any of the facilities in our town, but it is another tool in the box that we have at our disposal. Every time that I listen to Dr. Hinshaw say another 16 deaths today, and after a while, it just seems like a number. You know what? And those numbers start piling up. Well, those numbers are actually families that are going through a lot of pain. I feel that we are naive. We're only fooling ourselves if we think that it's not going to happen here, an outbreak. We are 60 minutes from one of the worst outbreaks in North America per capita. And I feel that we can no longer wait. That is not fair to the citizens, to the frontline workers. And again, I'll stress this, it is not going to cure COVID. And if it saves one life, I feel that it's worth it. But those are my personal reasons for calling you here tonight, to get your feelings on moving this bylaw forward. That, the fact that we're never going to be able to differentiate the numbers in the town proper from the rest of the county. I found that we were getting nowhere with the conversation. So if it was 20 was our trigger, the enhanced, we might not have one in town, or they all 20 could be in town. We're not going to get that information. So that's why I called this meeting tonight and put this bylaw, the changes that we asked for, in there. And I want everybody to have their say, and I respect everybody for their views. But I just wanted you guys all to know that what I figured out from myself, the reason that I was saying no is because it was easy to blame the Premier for not bringing this in. But the Premier doesn't make the decisions for the town of Vegreville. So that's what I have to say in this, and whoever wants to start can go ahead and let us know what you're feeling. Councillor Lemko.
Your Worship, it's a trying time for sure for all of us. I fully support the mandatory mask bylaw in the town, and I'm not scared to say that I would even go as far as to say the enhanced sanctions that are in place in Calgary and Edmonton in that corridor, I would support those in our community as well. We are green right now, but so was Sherwood Park at one certain point in time, and now they're purple. That color is going to come here. And if we don't put actions in place now, then we are going to be purple. So act purple and we'll stay green. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Councillor Lemko. Who would like to go next? Councillor Waters.
Yes, we are leaders in our community and we do need to take charge and make decisions. They are tough decisions, but we have to make them. My concern is we have people coming from the purple zones, the enhanced zones to our community because we don't have a masking bylaw. And I don't think that's fair to our residents. We need to keep them safe as well. I don't know how tonight is going to go, but I am in favor of a masking bylaw, but do want to make it clear that this isn't the end all. This isn't the cure, like Mayor McPhee has said. People should not take a false sense of security with the masking. There's other protocols in place, social distancing, hand washing. We've heard it all before, and we need to stress that. Another concern I have is I don't want to contract it. I don't want anyone else to contract it. I don't want people that are in other health illnesses, accidents that cannot access a bed or medical services because of COVID. So again, I don't know where tonight's going to end up, but I would be in favor of a masking bylaw.
Thank you. Would you like to go next, Councillor Riddick? Well, we're going down the line here, so.
Well, I haven't changed my position since March. I think this is the least that we can do. I think it's an indication of how we demonstrate care for our community and how we demonstrate care for others. And for me, that is just a symbol of how we're going to do that as community leaders as well. And I've had a few people reach out to me since we've had these conversations, and we've debated this a few different ways, a few different times. And each time that we've talked about it as council, and each time we've talked publicly and had citizens listen, I've had more people reach out to me each time. But this time is the most. After our discussion on Monday, I had people that were angry that I hadn't done anything yet. And I said, actually, I've been in support of this for a long time. And I don't think what's changed except the closeness. And I think what's changed is that it's on our doorstep, and that makes it more real. And when things get real, people start to think differently. And I think the fact that people are starting to realize that it's not because we were better or we did things more efficiently than other communities, because they didn't do anything wrong either. This isn't something that is a punishment or people have done things wrong. It's a virus. And for that reason, we need to be able to protect our citizens and our businesses. And for me, the cost is just too much to bear if we don't do it. I can't, the statistics are attached to people. And taking a look at the people that are expendable in some senses, according to some decision makers, to me, it's wrong. I think if we can do everything that we can to try to protect each other, that's what we should do. I had upset kids that couldn't go to university. I have upset kids that are going to be back at home. And to tell them that I'm not going to be making a decision about making masks as a counselor is embarrassing to me. As their parent, I should be making a best decision, a fiduciary responsibility for the people that I care for. And that's not just my children, it's the citizens of this community. And I did have people that reached out to me that were angry. They said that if we do this, they're going to drive to Lloydminster. And I said, you're going to have to drive farther and farther to try to find a safe haven for not wearing a mask, because it's becoming very obvious that we're all going to be in this situation. So I just think it's pragmatic. I think that the province failing to make a decision did download that decision to municipalities. But by us not making a decision, we're downloading it to businesses. And that's what I said before, is that people are having a difficult time as business owners trying to protect their employees. Minimum wage workers should not be the ones that have to make that decision, engaging in conflict with angry citizens that have a myriad of concerns related to the pandemic. So if we can relieve that little bit of pressure and just even the playing field and do our best, I think that's the best decision as decision makers for our community. So I think I'm glad to see that it's here sooner. I think it's the least that we can do for our community. And I understand that people will be upset, but I think the cost is just too much to bear, and we need to make these hard decisions.
Okay, I've never hidden my belief on it. I will not support the mask bylaw. And mine is actually taking many of your words, but the exact opposite. I don't actually think we're doing nothing. I think we're making conscious decision based upon the things that I felt very strongly about before. That I don't, it's not a matter of me thinking that we shouldn't if it was only one person or two people. It's because I don't believe, from all the information that I have seen from my job, from statistics that also show how, unfortunately, because we don't have proper bylaws, there is no regulation as to types of masks, and I feel very strongly that I have seen more negative impacts, negative touching of their face, a lot of other outcomes. I think that we allow people to still be able to wear masks if that is what is important to them, while I have openly said that I don't support them. You've also seen me walk in a mask when I knew that other people in close vicinity to me had that concern, and I knew I had been subjected to somebody that I thought would be higher risk. So, you know, I have done that not because of my belief at any point in the support of the mask, but because of my respect for the person that I was going to be next to. I actually think that the Premier's announcement, while I wished it had been more, and I wished it had been making a decision for us, I actually think exactly the opposite, that he did make a decision, because never before was Calgary or Edmonton mandated by the province. And he did mandate certain areas by the province. Now, my probably biggest issue that I have in regards to the bylaw coming here at this point is I can understand we cannot separate our numbers, which would have been our preference, and I would have liked that, but I totally get that it's not viable. I would have probably less issue with us dealing with it when it becomes enhanced versus us picking a random date. I don't like that actually at all because for a number of reasons. And as far as our regulations, we also have health, but we have mental health as well. So I know we want to see us suggest that we are going to jump to full enhanced measures. Having said that, everyone knows my opinion about it. I'm not going to carry on about it. I will not support the bylaw, but I will also support democracy, which will be allowing the step to go forward tonight, even if my vote on the other pieces is not there, if you understand what that means. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barry, you'll be next.
Thank you, Your Worship. I said most of what I wanted to say Monday night, but for those who didn't watch Monday night, I still firmly believe this is the responsibility of the province. And I think it is totally unfair to download it onto councillors. We are not medical advisors. I think that this should have been declared province-wide. It's piecemeal, as Councillor Rudick said, that people will just have to keep driving further and further to try and find a place where the mask bylaw isn't. Well, if it was province-wide, it would solve the issue right then and there. It would also make it easier for everybody, whether it's a business, an individual, or a councillor. The health and welfare on this pandemic is the responsibility of the province. So I will have a very difficult time supporting this. I believe that there are just about as many or more who are not in favor of it as who are. And I'll say again, I think that we're about to see an awful lot of people being awfully angry about everything with each other. And it really is difficult for me to understand why people get so incensed on what has not been proven to be totally effective. It is, as they say, one part of the toolbox. But when you take your mask off without sanitizing your hands, you've contaminated yourself. The mask, if it's doing its job, and you are in the vicinity of it, becomes contaminated. So when you take it off without sanitizing and being careful, you contaminate yourself. There's a false sense of security. I really think it's difficult for as councillors to not have the whole picture, and I think it is the province. But I too, for those who don't understand the process tonight, for this to go to a third reading in order that my fellow councillors can express how they feel, it would require a unanimous vote. So one negative vote kills it. So here's a democracy of where 1 out of 7 can stop it tonight, I won't stop it. I will vote on the unanimous side of it and let my councillors determine whether it passes or not. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Bradziak.
I also have not changed my mind on my position regarding masking within the town of Vegreville, mandatory masking. I'm in favor of it. I work in a seniors facility and I'm required at work to wear a mask at all times that I'm interacting with public there. I feel it would be a disservice in my position if I did not vote accordingly to the position that I hold. I think education about how to properly put the mask on and remove the mask is essential to prevent the spread of germs. I think also the hand washing that we've been required to do along with this has prevented a lot of illness in our community. And I think stats show it. Dr. Stridham said that he's noticed a definite decrease in the common cold and flu. And we also at the seniors facilities have noticed a decrease in this type of illness in the seniors. So I will support this tonight.
Okay. So does anybody else have anything else they want to say? I will say thank you all for being honest with your opinions. And like I said, we were here to listen to everybody's opinions. And I'm not saying anybody is right or anybody is wrong here. So we have a motion on the floor for the first reading of the bylaw 082-2020 temporary mandatory face covering bylaw number 1. All those in favor? Carried. Take a motion for the second reading. Councillor Bradziak. Is there anything else anybody would like to say? Seeing no hands. All those in favor of the second reading? Carried. Okay, I'll take a motion for unanimous consent. I think you made the first motion. So Councillor Waters makes a motion for unanimous consent. All those in favor? Carried.
I wonder if it's possible for the people that are watching that may not understand the legislative procedure that is happening here, just to clarify and have an explanation.
Sorry, I just thought it might be worthwhile to explain to those that might be viewing just a brief explanation of what the process that we're going through, because I don't know that most people are familiar with how this works. If we're going to do the 3 readings in one night to pass the bylaw, what that actually means for everybody that's voting and what the implications are. Is that possible?
Okay, go ahead, Cliff, you can explain.
In order for a bylaw to have 3 readings at one meeting, we have the first reading, which is puts the bylaw on the floor and opens it for discussion. A second reading, and then to have 3 readings at the same meeting, we need unanimous consent of all the members of council that are present at the meeting. And we have just received that. So now we can move to the third and final reading. And if the third reading has a majority vote, then this bylaw is passed.
So again, we have to appreciate 2 members that were basically against the bylaw, but the fact that they gave consent tonight for unanimous consent so we can move to the third reading, which will, the bylaw will go forward. So we're all those in, who we need a motion for the third reading. Councillor Rudick. All those in favor? Majority. Thank you. I appreciate everybody coming in tonight, giving their thoughts on this. Now I'd like to get a little bit of update on what measures the province announced last night and how they affect our community right now.
Thank you, Your Worship. And the measures put in place, we had a meeting this morning with senior leadership. We've discussed with managers the effects that the measures will have in place. Because we are not in an enhanced majority of the items are not affecting us other than the social gatherings in each individual household. We have had discussions with managers on what sorry, I'm trying to find my document. I lost it here. It's not the one I was really looking for, but. Yeah, it's not the one I'm looking for, sorry.
So the measures that were put in place yesterday by the province that affect all of Alberta are no indoor social gatherings in any setting, outdoor gatherings to a maximum of 10, wedding and funeral services, maximum of 10, no receptions permitted, no festivals or events, and then grades 7 to 12, at-home learning, effective November 30 to January 11, ECS to grade 6, at-home learning after the break until January 11. And after the break is dependent on the individual school boards. Working from home should be considered where possible. Because we are not in an enhanced status, those are the ones that are applicable to us at this time. The additional measures, should we move to an enhanced status, would be places of worship at 1/3 normal attendance with mandatory masking, restricted access to some businesses starting November 27, and that would be it for if we do reach the enhanced status.
So how many people are residents allowed to have at their house? I mean, their family, and then nobody else is allowed to come and go? Just your family?
Only the members that live in the household.
Okay.
If a person lives alone, they can have up to 2 members, of course, that are not in that household present.
Okay. Councillor Warwa, what have you heard about sport and hockey in particular?
Okay, so I had a number of actually calls and conversations throughout the day. One thing that people need to be clear is the sport itself is not a social gathering. The problem is not the kids on the ice, the curling team curling, any of those things. They can continue. It's just a matter of us doing our part to deal with the social, with the part that could cross over and become social. There is a very big misconception and people out there that's saying, oh, well, hockey or this or that is your social. It doesn't have to be. And yeah, we consider it our social, but it's about where the groups are gathering. So what we've been told right now is that practices can continue, but we should, as either on a facility side or ask, say, associations, for example, to present what they're going to do to deal with the social side. I was on a call today in regards to our hockey association. We were waiting to this meeting so that we could include any updated information, but right away, immediately on the hockey side, we're going to be sending out a note to the parents that will include asking them to reduce. You cannot ask somebody with a minor to not accompany them outright, but you can make a recommendation. You can limit the number of people that can come with them. We are going to, once again, on the hockey side, bring forward that we will be doing drop-ins as far as to check how people are sitting, that they're distancing. The masking will change that a little bit and make it simpler. I did have a conversation. I called Director Rowe, and he did indicate that he had done 3 random drop-ins and had not really seen a problem as far as some of that distancing, but it's a matter of tightening things back down, reminding groups that they can still go to these events, but shortening the amount of time before you go and after. Now, on the other hockey side, just so you are aware, I was also told today that there are exemptions being applied for 4 areas. So there may still be some games going forward. That will not happen yet, but I just want you to be aware that that may be going. They're looking at possibly changing the way things were prior, where they were just tiering you out in areas, and now making it more where who you would play would be reliant on whether or not you were in an enhanced zone or not. If anything kicks in that you are enhanced, everything has to automatically halt that day. So that's what I know on that part. Unfortunately, there was so many conversations, even with Hockey Alberta and AHS, that they told us we'd have additional updates to come. There would be no games this weekend for sure while they work it out, but it does appear that if you're not in enhanced, if you are doing your part to restrict the social side of things. And the argument there too, and I'm a strong advocate for this, obviously I advocate for hockey, but my other thought is when you have kids in grades 7 through 12 that you are going to not have going to school, not have them have any social. If we can eliminate the social side of the hockey and get to the just practice side where they can go out and safely do that, which is being allowed, I hope that people will support that, because there's a mental health issue for teenagers as well if we lock them down and give them no outing. So that's what I know so far, and we're being told daily updates, so it could change in a day.
Okay, so if you hear anything through Alberta Hockey and stuff, you'll okay. Okay, before we get to how we're going to roll out our mask bylaw, what are we doing about curling? Is curling allowed to go ahead here in Vegreville?
They are currently they're allowed to go ahead. We're still waiting for the curling club to submit their document on how they plan to mitigate COVID measures, as all the other dance clubs, hockey, skating, all provided documentation on how their club is going to mitigate it. It's not the town's responsibility, it is their responsibility. So we're waiting for that document. The ice is currently being put in. They've started the plant up. So we're just waiting for this document from them.
Okay, so before we go any further with how we're going to roll out this education portion of the mask bylaw and how we're going to treat the business and stuff, is there any other questions that as councillors you're hearing out there regarding the announcements yesterday that you feel need to be clarified for our community? Go ahead.
So I just got a bunch of calls right away, because it is somewhat confusing when you listened to the words in the announcement, because the announcement talked about lots of things, including sports, including things, and said they're not allowed until you get down into them and realize, but it was only for enhanced. So I think that that's going to be a strong concern. I know a bunch of places were very reactory yesterday and did automatic things and automatic canceling and automatic regulation changes because they assumed we were going to be in a different spot. So that's the only thing that I wanted to bring forward, was that I think we have to make sure that people understand, but they also need to understand that enhanced changes are hands-tied regulations. So my one question after this would be, what is our plan, and how would we communicate when we become enhanced if that situation comes about? Because in my understanding, from what I've read, if you become enhanced, the regulation becomes immediate from the time you become enhanced. So how would we get that out to people if it happened on a Friday at 4 o'clock or something?
Go ahead.
Our communication strategy would be to use our website, social media, the radio, newspaper. Also, we'll do our best to get a message out on our app the best we can. Of course, it's easier if it's Monday to Friday daytime hours, but we will do our best if it does occur on a weekend. Okay.
But just saying that, we would reach out to the head of each organization that would be affected by now being in an enhanced.
Correct. If there are changes that are affecting someone directly on this, they would be notified.
Okay. Councillor Riddick, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I just, one further comment to Councillor Warawa. I was on a call late this afternoon with through municipal affairs for municipal administrators, and Dr. Hinshaw was asked a number of questions. The order is still being drafted. is to be posted on Friday. So they are still working on all the details. And there's some questions that were asked they didn't have the answers for at this point. So I know over the next couple days, there will be hopefully some clarification coming out. So.
Okay, I was also listening to that call, and what Dr. Hinshaw did say with respect to going into enhanced, the regulation will kick in, and if you come out of enhanced the next day, the regulation is for 3 weeks. If you go into enhanced, you're in it for 3 weeks, whether you come out of it the next day or not. Yeah.
That's what I was wondering.
Hey, Councilor Riddick?
I was just going to say that there are other activities, just because, of course, I have dancers and teachers in my family that use our facilities as town facilities that have already adapted their way of delivering programming. And so there's hundreds of kids that are going to be either doing a combined blend right now. And I guess one of the things that we've learned in the last 10 months is that, or 9 months, that we're adaptable and people change very quickly to whatever the new regulations are. So in terms of fitness in the community or dance studios as well, they are all doing a combination of in-person and Zoom, even though that's not required. And I think that sort of combines the comments that I had from people too, is that they would feel more comfortable if there was more visible protective measures. So I think that speaks to the idea that we were talking about. For example, in hockey, I had somebody who's gone from one end of the spectrum to the other end in the last 9 months in their perspective, because they just want to be able to have kids be able to interact with one another. And the mental health component for sure would be enhanced by adults being able to adhere to making sure that that continues on. The one thing that I've heard from businesses, again, after our conversation on Monday, is just leveling the playing field is what they're looking for, is that all businesses would be treated the same. And for that reason, that at this point, we're able to provide that to them by able to provide these signs or being able to support them if they need it. The one thing that I would say is that if there are specific areas of concern when we move into enhanced, I guess we should maybe have a list ourselves of who we need to reach out to. So as a community, we've been approaching this not as an emergency, but disaster management, I think would be more the appropriate term as we've moved through this pandemic, just coming up with a plan in place, who we would need to contact if things changed quickly. So enhanced status could happen instantly. So we should have a list of who we need to contact.
Okay. So that being said, I'm sure that we can work on that, a plan for if and when we get to that stage where we're in the enhanced zone. But right now, Phil, what is the rollout going to be for our mask bylaw?
All right, so we will have, you will be making a talk of the town on Monday outlining the bylaw to the public and also providing some public education points in regards to the restrictions that have been put by the province. Ultimately, this is up to us now as a community to, like you had said, it's up to us to see where this goes and slow this down. So we have a lot of public education points. We will have a frequently asked questions document that has been prepared that will be rolled out with the news release, links to our website where people can find these questions. We are working on an internal document specific to our staff as a senior leadership group. And we will be in consultation with the chamber as we start through this process to ensure businesses have the supports that they need. Today has been quite busy for the fire department. Many businesses have been asking about the fire code regulation numbers. So it's been quite a challenge, and while it's not our responsibility to do that, we are helping our local businesses. Many communities are having this challenge right now. So businesses, we will support them as best as we can to help them understand how the numbers are calculated for fire code occupancy. So we'll be working with that with them. And other than that, it's going to be continued public education with town council to our public to consistently and continuously remind the public of the restrictions in place. The RCMP and municipal enforcement are aware of the bylaw, and they are going to focus on education and first, and enforcement, but enforcement will be there if required.
Okay, so as of tomorrow morning, we're going to have a press release regarding this new bylaw, and it takes effect on Monday. We're going to reach out to the chamber, and we're going to give the chamber these tips, I'll say, because this is very good for business. I mean, I went through this today to understand when you pass the office in my business where it says nobody but employees are allowed, my employees do not have to be wearing masks in the back. They can work normally like they always do in the back. But if they're in the front or they're dealing with the public outside, they need to be wearing a mask. There's all kinds of questions, and the answers are in this document. And I appreciate you putting that together. And we need to get it as public as quickly as we can, so businesses will be ready and they'll have an understanding of what their obligations are. When it comes to the signs, are we providing signs, or are they just download them? How is that going to work?
So Appendix B of the bylaw, we do have a sign for the town of Vegreville businesses that can be downloaded. We can provide signs should they, if businesses need, we'll provide that to the chamber, and the chamber can fan it out to all the businesses that are members. Ones that are not members, it will be available for download on our website.
I don't know what's in that document, so what I'm saying might be in there already, but if it isn't, one of the things that maybe we can't mandate, but I would want us to encourage, I've watched people come in and out of businesses, and the businesses all are providing sanitation coming into the business. I would like to see something in that document talking about sanitation coming out of the business, because that's part of my issue where masks are regards is people come out. I'll use Walmart. I'm not picking on them. I'm just saying they're one. You come in, the station is there, hands-free, you can sanitize. They walk around within the store. They come out of the store. The first thing to do as soon as they get outside is the removal of the mask. And quite often you're sweating, you're whatnot. And I watch multiple people do this and they haven't sanitized after they came inside. So if it's not in there, if there could be a component about the suggestion of exit sanitation and signage or something, because I think that is one thing we need to deal with. It would then make it that somebody came in their own vehicle, potentially safe, cleaned coming into a business, then coming out prior to either them having to get into their own purse and touching that, or getting into their own car. If that exit was there, I think that would do something. So that was one point. The only other thing that I guess I would want people to understand is in regards to what you said, where of course, when they're working in their own space, when they're working in physical distancing, they're not requiring a mask. While I understand that it's very easy to assume that everything that happens out of people's homes is social, I'm just saying this since everyone can hear it. People need to understand that there will still be people that are at other people's homes because their work is exempt. You do not know how often somebody might be working regarding their house. My personal job has exactly that. I literally work as a secondary location to my office out of a residence of the person's. And it is work, and it is cleared for us to be in that spot. So I'm just asking the public as this transition comes to be somewhat respectful of each other, and to not assume that every time you see somebody else at somebody's house, that it isn't in regards to a work ability. That's all.
Okay, so I will bring up on the Talk of the Town, which I'll be taping tomorrow, regarding removing the face coverings in a proper way, because it just doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Riddick.
So on the poster that's prepared here, I think it might be worthwhile explaining public places and public vehicle. So in most communities, we don't have public transit in Vegreville. So public vehicles in this case would mean a taxi or the handy van or any of the other forms of transportation. We don't have Uber, but is that what is intended by that? And what is the definition of public places? Because I think that's also confusing. So the frequently asked questions I'm glad to see that it has that explanation for office or business locations so that people understand what happens in their own business, because co-workers are not considered cohorts. However, in instances where you can physically distance, that would be a different scenario for a business. So are you able to explain both of those, please?
So by definition in the bylaw, public place means any property, whether publicly or privately owned, to which members of the public have access as of right or by express or implied invitation, whether on payment of any fee or not. Public vehicle means a bus, taxi, or other vehicle that is used to transport members of the public for a fee.
Okay.
So I guess so in a business, if your business is open and then unlocked, and then that's an invitation to the public to come in and do conduct business there. As Mayor McPhee said, it has to, if you have an area that is specifically for your staff, that has to be clearly marked that no employees only past this point. Then that is not implied as a public space. That is now considered a private area. If that clears up.
I also want to stress that this is not a time to challenge somebody one way or the other. If somebody says that they're exempt from wearing a mask, it's not time to grab a hold of them and drag them and throw them down on the ground. It's not time to be making fun of somebody for wearing a mask. It is nothing. It's about respecting each other as much as we possibly can here. So are we asking businesses to physically remove people from their business that aren't wearing a mask? No, we're not. Are we going to ask the business owners for them to supply proof through some medical records that they have some sort of breathing abnormal situation? No, we're not. Do we have fines involved with our bylaw? Yes, we do. And are we looking to fine people? No, we're not. We will if we have to. If we have businesses that continue not to advertise that signs that the masks are mandatory in this community, then we will take actions. If we have people that are just causing problems and being a nuisance to businesses, we will use the bylaw. I've noticed other communities have signs at both ends of their town that say that this community has a mask bylaw, that you're expected to wear a mask in this community. I don't know what we'll do about that, but I think that we should go ahead, Phil.
Your Worship, both of the signs on the east and west of Vegreville will be updated immediately to notify any travelers coming into our community that there's a mandatory mask bylaw in place.
Okay, good. So again, well, hopefully tomorrow when we're taping Talk of the Town, we're going to touch on a lot of these issues. And for just the normal person in town and how this is going to change their lives or affect their lives. And for most people, it's not going to be a lot because over half the people I see when I go out are already wearing masks. So they're already taking that step already. So, but I want to thank admin and I want to thank council. I know that things changed in a hurry here the last couple of days. And I myself personally, like I said, I just could not think about it having that situation 60 kilometers away from us and not being proactive and waiting. And the fact that I probably would have waited a little bit longer, the province had been able to separate those numbers, but the fact that they were using every argument but something that made sense. So, I mean, I don't know if I should say that or not, but it just didn't make any sense to me. They used to give us the numbers. All of a sudden, they're protecting somebody's privacy. I was not asking for somebody's name. I mean, if there's 5,700 people living in town, I want to know how many have COVID. That's all I asked. And that was not being, we weren't going to get there. Or I don't understand why. Councillor Worrell.
I would just say that I literally mirror what you're saying there. To me, to say that it's okay to give out information on numbers on Minburn County, but not to give in a municipality, I'm sorry. I will openly say I think that is ridiculous. So I appreciate everybody who tried to reach out and tried to correct it. But I mean, we can't use FOIP when it works for us and when it doesn't. So to say that it wasn't due to FOIP or whatnot, that I can't tell you within your community, but I could tell you that they're both municipalities. Municipality of Minburn, they have their own council and we have our own council. So, I mean, it's unfortunate, but I certainly don't support that we didn't get that information.
Okay, Councillor Rudick.
I did have one other request about how to share information with our public, and I don't know if this is possible. So the radio station used to share some of that data on their feed every day, and I don't necessarily look there, but the geospatial map that AHS has developed is fairly good, but it's a little bit cumbersome, particularly for seniors. So I've had the request if it's possible for us to share the link on our social media, if it's possible, and or for us to be able to advocate again, because I reached out within AHS. For example, the individual that's setting up the COVID site and is responsible for all the testing across the province. And that's not something that they have access to, but she was very clear that it would need to be a politician to politician request, that we would need to use a different level of power. That said, people are looking for the data, and the geospatial maps are hard to find on the AHS website. So if it's possible for us to have that link again on our own information, and perhaps ask the radio if it's possible to share that, because they're looking for that data quickly. Some people, particularly as we're going into winter, that's something that they do every day. They look every day to be able to see what's happening locally. So that was a request.
I can tell you that Country 106.5, every morning at 6:30, they have that update of County Minburn and the surrounding counties. And again, at 7:30, it's the only time I listen to the news is in the morning, but that they do have it every morning. And I would imagine it must be around 8:30, Phil.
And our news release will have the geospatial link and the regional COVID statistics link tied to the release, as well as the actual bylaw.
Okay, so again, we are all ambassadors now moving forward, trying to educate the public. We all have our reasons for our decisions.
If I could reiterate one more thing to council and the public, the AHS COVID testing site will be active tomorrow, and it is by appointment only. You cannot go to the door. They will not let you in. They have a specific way that people are to access that building, and you will only get it through appointment on HealthLink or by calling 811. So I just urge the citizens, please do not bombard the library complex with going there, because they will not let you in.
Just while we're still on this topic, I would like a picture of that poster on the exit door that says, please do not stop in our community until you have a negative test from this point, leaving this facility.
I hope they let me in to take a picture.
Well, if it's not there, we'll shut it down. I'll guarantee you. Councillor Worrell.
Just since we were on this topic, it's slightly different, but it's sort of the same. After our meeting the other day, I had 3 people reach out to me because somewhere in our conversation, somebody must have mentioned something about the tracing app. What I was asked, and from all 3 people, literally exactly the same, was that they asked if, as a council, we would consider advocating to the province about some of the reasons that, some of the issues that have come to us in regards to the tracing app. And the 2 that were in both of them was, one said that it was actually pulling data from them. And the other one said that the way the app is set up, however it is when it comes in, it was draining their battery at an unusual rate. So just since we were on that topic, that was something, and they were wondering if we would reach out and say that we would like to be able to encourage more of our citizens to use this, but we're also hearing that, because those are two big things. If it's using data and it is draining a phone at an unusual rate, I can see why some people are not willing to have it in.
And I had brought that question. I asked the Premier directly about the app. Is there any tools that the province has to have more people using the app, because the contact tracing is not working? They actually gave up the other day. They were 10 days behind, so they just stopped and started again from that day. They just couldn't do it. They just can't keep up. The Premier told me that, yes, but he would love to have another tools in his box to force people to sign up for the app. He feels that the app is better than the Canadian app. Bought this app from Singapore, and what happened in Singapore was amazing. But Singapore has different rules, and they can force people to download the app. I've had the app since the day it came out. I've never noticed anything with my phone. He brought that up, that there was some glitches the very first, but that we're talking in May, just before June, that these glitches were all settled. So I would seriously, I've encouraged everybody in my family to download the app. And it's not like you're giving out personal information that everybody puts on Facebook and on Twitter. What it is, it's phone to phone. If your phone comes in contact with somebody that has tested positive, that owns that phone, it'll let you know. And if you test positive, they'll download your phone and they'll get all these phone numbers of people that your phone came in contact with while you were asymptomatic. So, I mean, it's a great app. And I don't know why people wouldn't download it.
I'm wondering then if the fix could possibly be, if it was a glitch and they indicated, if the fix could be the removal and then re-download. So I wonder though, if people remove it, if they're having problems with it, and then download it again, if it might fix that.
I don't know, but I would like to use that as an education piece as we move forward here. And we'll find out about, with Alberta Health, was there any glitches in it? Are they fixed? Is there something that people had a problem with? Can we move forward on it? Because I've never seen nothing on my phone, and everybody was said that at first, that it was draining their phones, but mine's never done that.
I got 3 messages just after I moved the other day.
So there was glitches, I understanding back when it first started. I heard that the glitches were changed in mid-September, but I also have it, and it's not draining the battery, and it doesn't use data as people saying is. But if you do have other apps open, something like music, and you have it on at the same time, or something else that's also using location services, those things will all drain your battery. So it's about keeping, so if you have multiple apps open that are using location services, it will drain your battery. So, yeah, so.
So we all have a plan to move forward here, and we all have responsibilities. And again, we're ambassadors to the community on this bylaw. And is there anything else that anybody wants to bring forward right now? Councilor Rudick.
I just want to make sure that our citizens understand that our staff are enacting the decisions that we made here. So it would be entirely inappropriate to call the office and rant and rave. We signed up for this job. And so we all understand, and we may disagree with one another, but we ultimately respect each other as counselors. And again, I just want to make sure that the public understands that we are making the best decision possible. And the staff that are going to be answering the phone or working in a public setting do not deserve any kind of reprimand or aggression. I understand it's a difficult time. And if now isn't the time to be more compassionate, I don't know when is. So I just would encourage the public, if they have concerns, to direct it to us, not to our staff.
Thank you very much for that. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You know, their name was on the ballot. They didn't make the decision. They're just fulfilling the obligation of what we're asking them to do. So, and again, we're open to having any conversation. Councillor Barry?
One other point that maybe people should understand is that once the vote is taken, all 7 speak the same way. You're not going to find 5 against 2 out in the public. The vote has been taken and it's unanimous now.
Okay, well, if nobody has anything else, let's move forward. And I appreciate everybody making time to come in tonight and moving quickly on this. And if you have any questions that you need answered or whatever, there's maybe a citizen out there that's having a negative reaction to our decisions that you would like for me to talk to with them or anything like that, I'll be more than willing to do that. That is it. You got nothing else? Then I will adjourn this meeting.